This video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com. Hit the link in the description below, use the code KENOBI at checkout, get 5% off your order, and help support the show. I'm not going to be making an Oathbreaker deck or playing any Oathbreaker, and that's not a value judgment on Oathbreaker as a format or the people that want to play it like yourself if you're watching this. It's more a frustration with the fact that, well, I don't have the time to play Oathbreaker down my local store. I play a lot of Magic for my job. As you might have noticed, I make lots of Magic videos and talk about Magic all the time. It's my job, and that's fine. So that means when it comes to my downtime, I don't play as much Magic outside. I will try and get down over to a game store once every week or two to play some Commander. I do still like to do that, and I go to events, of course, as well. But I don't have that much spare time outside of my day job, especially with the fact that I've had a baby recently, or we've had a baby. People picked me up in the last video saying I've had a baby. I have had a baby, as has my wife. We've had a baby. Saying I is not excluding her, it's just a turn of phrase from myself. She can also say that and I wouldn't be offended. So if you're going to type in the... Actually, you know what? Type in the comment section. Get annoyed at me for that. The engagement is great. And Oathbreaker as a format does sound interesting. For those of you who don't know, I'll quickly summarize it, I guess. It's a 60 card, supposedly 3 to 5 player multiplayer format. That's something I take a little bit of issue with. Supposedly quick games as well, where the games start at 20 life. It's singleton-like commander. You have a commander, and then you have a signature spell. A signature spell is a spell that has to be in the same color as your commander, and it can be cast if your commander is in play. Your commander is referred to as an Oathbreaker in this format. I think that 60 card singleton excites me. I absolutely adore singleton formats, so I was kind of excited about it. I thought the idea of playing it sounded fun. To be very, very clear, I think having unique and interesting ways to play Magic is great. I love multiple formats. I love just jumping around and not always playing the same thing. The idea of laddering the same format for like a whole week on stream would drive me insane. I'd rather shit in my own hands and clap. The problem is Oathbreaker, although it's now been officially picked up by Magic the Gathering TM, by Wizards of the Coast, it's not actually available on any digital format. It's available on tabletop and on spell table. Spell table is where you play tabletop via a webcam and you can't read other people's cards very well. Why is this not implemented on Arena or on Magic the Gathering Online? Why is it exclusively only in paper? Look, I love paper Magic. I really, really do. I prefer playing physically in paper, but I hate managing my decks in paper. When it comes to a new format coming around where I've got to then go through my collection and build a deck with different rules to another format, in this case 60 card, singleton, Oathbreaker, spell slinger shit, I want to make sure the format's not going to die immediately. I played Tiny Leaders when it first came around. I played 2 different FNMs of it, and then the format dried up because it felt solved. People weren't that keen on it. I absolutely loved it. I built 2 different decks for it, but no one else was really that keen after a while, and everyone went back to playing Modern and Commander in my local area. The idea of spending hours getting a deck together, and it will be hours, right? The minimum to build a deck will take you 2 or 3 hours, minimum, to dig through your cards and find it all, sleeve it all up and such. And then when you start to excruciatingly, painstakingly deliberate over your final cuts and your final picks, it's going to take even longer. So to do that and then get like 1 FNM out of it, that is not time well placed for me. So what would I do? What would I prefer? I think I would definitely pick up Oathbreaker like immediately and start playing it like shit, like mad, if it was on Arena or on Moto. Magic the Gathering Online is being not left to rot. It's recently been taken over by a new developer who's trying their best. So, you know, there's promise there. They're currently dealing with legacy issues from before, like the legacy, for example, as a format. That's not what I meant by legacy issues, but legacy as a format doesn't match paper at the moment because there's cards from like from Unstable, what was the last? Unfinity, and from the Warhammer decks that aren't on Moto yet. That's an issue that isn't due to the current developer. That's an issue they've inherited. And then Arena. Do you remember when Arena was like the forefront of Magic? Do you remember when esports and the digital push was the biggest thing?
The world will know.
And back then, I also was saying I want them to focus on paper, but what I would really like at this point, if I'm completely honest with you, is that both experiences work. What I mean by that is that it doesn't have to be an either-or situation. We don't have to have a focus on Twitch numbers, esports, and like one-on-one digital Magic on Arena, or Commander. It can be both. And I feel like Wizards are only focusing on whichever one is currently profitable or trendy with shareholders and CEOs that don't know what a Fortnite or a Floss is. Now, I don't want to say that it's incredibly easy just to throw something on Arena or throw something on Moto, especially Moto, as it's been around for so long it's an interconnected weave of spaghetti, way more so than Arena is, right? So I understand it's not the easiest thing in the world. However, and again, I'm coming at this not from the position of a game designer or a tech nerd, so people in the comments are going to tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, but when you have like infinite money, you can hire people. You can give the people who are working on the project more time, more resources, more people to help with said thing. I've been told before that that's not how it works, but it is. That is how it works. If you have as much money, and I say infinite money, wizards don't have infinite money, they just make around $1 billion a year. In the grand scheme of things, that is infinite money. When you make $1 billion a year, you could easily have a much more cohesive digital and paper alignment. You can have both systems work well for those who are invested in one or the other. I have for the longest time now played the majority of my Magic online via Moto, via Arena, because it's just the easiest way for me to do it in my day job when I'm sat in this office trying to learn, understand, talk, play, film Magic, but also because, well, it's more efficient than me trying to find people to play Legacy with when, Legacy is a dying format that exists primarily online. So I'm not saying move the focus to one or the other, paper or digital. I'm just saying, why are we suddenly officially endorsing formats and then doing nothing with them? There's no tournaments for Oathbreaker. I'm not saying there needs to be, but that's not an endorsement of it. And there's no digital platform play experience for it either. So what's the fucking point? What does this endorsement even mean? I actually came into this much more skeptically, thinking that actually it's all just hot air and it'll blow over. When I tweeted about it, a few people had responded telling me that they had people get really quite into the idea of brewing decks, and the interest in the format had blown up there. I also then walked into my local game store recently to buy a box of Khorne Berserkers. That's right, I've mentioned Warhammer twice in this video. But as I was buying these, there was like 3 or 4 kids in my local game store, and they were discussing who their commander was and what their signature spell was for their Oathbreaker deck. And as I heard that, I thought to myself, I think I've misjudged this. I think I was wrong. I think any format that apes Commander is going to tickle the fancy of people who play a load of Commander, especially if it gives a different enough experience. The signature spell and the smaller deck size and the smaller life total. Life total's been 20 is a big push towards allowing aggressive decks to exist in formats. And maybe, just maybe, next time I pop in there, if they tell me they're having regular Oathbreaker events, I might build a deck and go down there. This video is I will never play Oathbreaker. It's more that at the moment it's impractical for me. I am primarily playing Magic digitally while I'm at home dealing with a newborn baby and my job, and I really would like to try Oathbreaker. I don't have the time to build a deck and get out to the game store. If anything, I'm going to guarantee the game I can get. There's also a final point I want to touch upon that I think Brian Kibler tweeted about as well, and I kind of agreed with him, is that how many formats can Magic really have? The answer is infinite, but the real question is how many of those infinite options are viable? How many of them will get games 2 months down the line? I go back to my Tiny Leaders example. Tiny Leaders had quite a bit of buzz about it because it was like a tightened, competitive 1v1 alternative to Commander that had still an air of Commander. The card pool was also different to Commander, being 3 CMC or less, so it felt interesting and new, undiscovered country in many ways, but that dried up really quick, and I can see that happening with Oathbreaker 2. I do think that digital spaces help with that because people are much more likely to give it a go if it doesn't involve the time investment I'm talking about, building the physical deck, tearing other decks apart, sorting out your collection, going to the store and then getting a game. Like, I actually don't even know if there's an Oathbreaker night to any of my stores locally. I'd have to find out. Another hurdle. But if they were available, even in a casual queue on Arena, you could give it a go and the format could grow from there. Of course, there's this argument they don't want to dilute each of the pools of players playing on Arena, but I get the impression there's a fucking ton of Arena players. I think it can deal with 1 or 2 more formats before we start to have queues dry up. I think what's really happening there is they don't want new formats to compete with things that they want to look more popular. Alchemy, for example, I don't think is very popular at all. If you look at the numbers from about 4 or 5 months ago, it looks like easily the worst format on there in terms of regular players. And I think if you introduce more and more interesting and more fun versions of Magic, less players will play Alchemy when it's the worst one. And this also comes back to like other formats that I'm really enjoying. Like Gladiator is probably my favourite way to play on Arena. It's Historic Brawl without a commander, so the games feel much more varied and interesting with lower life totals too, off the top of my head. I'm blanking now. What's the starting life total in Historic Brawl? Is it 30? Either way, it doesn't matter. Gladiator is a much more interesting way to play because I love Singleton. I absolutely love it. But the problem with Gladiator right now is that there's no way to actually play it beyond finding people on a Discord server and then talking fucking challenging. Like, I'm running a Gladiator League on my Discord right now, and once that finishes, I'm going to do like a Gladiator F&M where patrons can show up and get paired, and we'll have some prizes and stuff. If you want to get involved in that, there'll be a link to my Patreon in the description below. Sign up, $2 a month, for fuck's sake. It's best value you'll get on the internet for an MTG Discord. But that's all like grassroots shit. I want to film Gladiator as well, because I like it that much. So I'm starting to reach out to creators to just film some one-on-one Gladiator matches to have on the channel. But I've got to do all that via the direct challenge system. A direct challenge system doesn't fucking work very well either, because it seems like you've got to both type in each other's names or some shit. I just end up befriending everyone to send the request, which... Firstly, it's a joke that these formats are so difficult to actually play when they're officially recognised. But secondly, it just is a testament to how much the digital platform is kind of still bare bones. We just had an arena championship with some money on the line for historic, and there was no spectator mode still in the client. So what they had to do was like stream their own games, each player to an OBS or to a Discord that someone else would then pull out to OBS and put up, and then, oh, it's just a fucking mess. I get that spectator mode might be used by less than 1% of users. That's why it's not a feature they should look at doing. But when you're a billion-dollar company, I think you can afford some money and resources to make a feature that, although it's only 1%, that 1% is you. It's what you need to do to make your esports look better. I mean, I don't know. I'm shouting out a thing that we just don't really give two shits about anymore. Part of me wonders if their lackluster approach towards anything outside of the recent Pro Tour, and even then, that wasn't exactly promoted very well, was it? The more people were looking at the Commander previews at the same convention than they were the Pro Tour. Loads of people didn't even know Reed Duke had won one. I just assume it's all incompetence, really. Part of me wants to think this conspiracy theory that they're doing it on purpose so they can just drop organised play in a couple of years and point to the fact that the numbers were bad. But ultimately, I don't think they're doing that on purpose. I think it's just a load of misfires and missteps around marketing, communication, and features that would make all of this stuff better. So this video went from me saying, why the fuck is Oathbreaker not on a digital platform, to complaining about how digital platforms are kind of bare bones, even this far on, for a company that makes literally $1 billion. I'd love to hear what you think in the comment section below, but if you are looking just to make excuses for the $1 billion company by saying it's hard to program things, look, I'm not saying it's not, but this is not like little Timmy in his bedroom making his indie game. The funny thing is, I don't know how big the Arena development team or the Moto development team are, but I reckon they are pretty small. I bet they are comparable to an independent company, a little indie company making games, because Wizards doesn't want to reinvest that money. They just want to sell us collectible cardboard crack, and then, you know, that's it, really. Why invest any more money if we're willing to buy all the secret layers, I guess? That's my ramblings about Oathbreaker. Let me know what you think in the description below. I've talked about like 1,000,001 things in this video. 14 minutes of tightly packed rambling. Let me know in the comment section below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, how about you hit that subscribe button? I put out videos almost every single day about Magic, multiple on some days. And people seem to be unsubbing when I play Historic, which is fucking strange. If you don't want to see the Historic gameplay, just stay subbed and you can see the Legacy gameplay or the talking heads like this or the videos on cheaters or whatever the fuck it is that you want to see. I do a lot of variety content. Anyway, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to end the video there because I'm really fucking rambling. Ta-ta for now.